Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to Something to Talk About. We are at King's Restaurant in Tamuning. They have been lovely hosts, and we have a guest tonight that I think that you will enjoy. Father Eric Forbes from the St. Fidelis Friary is our guest tonight, and we are going to talk about a lot of things involving the Catholic Church, involving the Friary, and involving a fundraiser that's coming up for the St. Fidelis Friary. We have fruit, we have faith, and we have Father Eric. Come on back. Fruit?
Okay, let me look for a good one.
Welcome back to Something to Talk About. We're happy to be here at King's Restaurant in Tamuning, and I'm happy to introduce to you my guest, Father Eric Forbes of the St. Fidelis Friary. Half a day.
Half a day, Patty.
You know what? I have to tell you that when I was trying to book this interview with you, you are really well sought after and very difficult to reach. Do you know your voicemail it's like full? Have you cleared that out yet?
How do you do that?
Oh, shoot. Okay, never mind then. You have to ask somebody to do it for you. But you're a popular guy. I mean, everybody wants to talk to you right now. What
it's
is
just you
that?
and me here right now.
This is true, and I know. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it,
No
because
problem.
it's really it's a tough time. It's a tough time in our lives. It's a tough time for the Catholic Church. It's a tough time for Guam. I wanted to have you, come in to talk about some of the things that are happening in the church. But I think that when we do our radio program on K57, a lot of people ask what the difference is. The difference between the archdiocesan, priests and your order, which is the Capuchins, and they don't realize that it's a separate order and it's a whole separate thing, right? Is it a separate
Correct.
thing? Is that a good word to use, separate, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's separate, but part of.
Right.
Like the body is made up of separate organs, but they all work together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do we explain what the Capuchins do, and how do we explain what the other priests in our parishes do?
Okay, well, you have to understand the history of the Catholic Church on Guam. So obviously missionaries from elsewhere had to come. And there were no native clergy for hundreds of years. And so first came the Jesuits, and then the Jesuits were expelled by their own country, their own king, the Spanish king. And then they were replaced by the Augustinian Recollects, again Spaniards. And they were expelled in 1899 by the first American naval governor of Guam. And for 2 years, the one and only Padre Palomo, the only Chamorro priest, the first Chamorro priest, who was already in his 60s, for 2 years, 1899 to 1901, had to take care of 10,000 Catholics in Guam, from Jigo to Maleso. So for 2 years, he was Facebook messaging and sending emails all over, asking for help. It just so happened that down in Yap and Palau, the Spanish Capuchins were there, but they were on their way out because those islands had become German. And the German Capuchins were going to replace them. So it took a little bit of, mail was very slow in those days. I'm joking about the Facebook.
Right.
And it took some time to get permissions from Rome. But in 1901, in August, which is why we hold this dinner every August, the first Capuchins came to Guam and started to help Padre Palomo, a diocesan Chamorro priest, the first and at the time the only. And we've been here ever since, over 100 years.
But there's a difference between
Yes.
the different orders,
Right.
obviously. There's
Right.
a house in St. Fidelis, there's a
Right.
house, I'm assuming it's the seminary, or am I misled on how, what the orders, and how the different orders go here?
What seminary?
The Redemptus Mater Seminary.
Oh, that belongs to the Archdiocese.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is different in what way?
It's different in the sense that it is a seminary to form priests in the neo-catechumenal spirituality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the St. Fidelis Friary, which is an entirely different order, you're also in
Yeah.
the parishes, though.
Well, the neo-catechumenal way is not even an order.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, sure, okay. Making that clarification.
Right.
But the Capuchin order also has pastors or priests in the parishes, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The superior of the Capuchin meets with the Archbishop every 3 years, and we offer our services, and the Archbishop blesses the assignments that the Capuchins are willing to take.
Okay.
So far, we have 5 parishes.
And so you're the superior?
No, I used to be.
Okay.
But I haven't been superior for 6 years.
So who's the superior?
The superior now is Father Joseph English,
Oh, okay.
who's also the pastor of Santa Teresita.
Right, okay.
Manila.
So he meets every 3 years with the Archbishop?
Yes.
And then
Well, every 3 years we elect the
Right.
superior, and he was re-elected. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's whoever the superior is every 3 years.
Right, okay. So there is this brother house at the top of this beautiful hill and this beautiful church and this beautiful rectory.
It's a friary.
Friary,
Right.
where you are. And I think that's what some of the questions had been from people who don't. There's a lot happening in our church right now, and they don't know what the differences are. They see
Right.
the guys with the brown robes, they see the other guys in a different robe,
Right,
and so they don't know who is what. And there are a lot of non-Catholics who are now, because of what's
Yeah.
happening in the church, are trying to become educated on
Right.
where and how and what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll stop calling me monk.
Oh, are they calling you monk?
Some people, even Catholics.
Oh, they call you monk.
Yes, and I'm not a monk. I'm
Okay,
a friar.
but you dress like one. Kind of. No. Okay. Tell me what the difference is then.
Well, I want to start with talking about the priesthood. First comes the priesthood, all right?
Right.
Christ the high priest, the one and only true priest, right? We are simply walking in his footsteps as his priests, as his partners, that he has delegated through ordination, through the bishop, right? So Christ the high priest, 12 apostles, he establishes the church on them, especially Peter. Thou art rock, and on this rock I will build my church. The bishops then ordain deacons to help them in the ministry, and then also presbyters. The word priest is a shortcut of presbyter, to help celebrate the sacraments as the church expands. As well as 12 apostles expanding to the, I don't know what it is, 5,000 or 6,000 bishops that we have. So the bishops that we have today are successors of the apostles, whereas we priests, we are the co-workers of the bishops. We are here to serve in our capacity as priests. The bishop has the fullness of the priesthood. He can celebrate all the sacraments except matrimony, because obviously it is the husband and wife who celebrate that sacrament, whereas I only have the power to celebrate certain sacraments. And if I'm to serve publicly in the diocese or archdiocese, I have to get permission from the local bishop. So the priesthood comes first,
I see.
okay? Later on, especially after the church has ended its experience of persecution, you know, for the first 300 years, more or less, ups and downs in those 300 years. But for a lot of those 300 years, the church was very persecuted, underground, closed doors, huh? So once Constantine opens the doors and legalizes the church, Christianity takes off. But what about the spiritual life? You see, under persecution, you know, you really have to stand for your faith. Otherwise, it's give in to reverting to paganism, or pretty much.
We don't want that.
Well,
It's bad.
guess what's happening in Iraq and Syria right now?
Exactly.
There's thousands
ISIS,
of Christians, you know. And unfortunately, all religions have experienced that, where one religion, you know, puts violence on other religions, you know, in the name of God. It's very unfortunate. That's human nature messing up, you know, religion. So anyway, back to that. So some of the Christians decide to go and live out in the desert. And that's their new hardship. The earlier hardship was simply being a Christian in times of persecution. You know, Christ said that we must pick up our cross and follow him, that the way to heaven is narrow and bumpy, and it takes sacrifice to be a Christian. And so when times got a little easier, some people who wanted to be very serious in their Christian spirituality took off for the desert to be hermits, and to experience their trials and sacrifices that way to deepen their spirituality. Eventually, many of these hermits got together and formed communities, and those we can properly call monks.
I see. I see. So I've got to ask you how all of this relates to Guam, how we come back
Okay.
to this.
All right. So, eventually, some of these monks are priests, some are not. Eventually, people like St. Francis and St. Dominic come along. This is already the 1100s, the 1200s. And they want to kind of live the life of a monk, but not really. In other words, they want to live in community. They want to live a life of prayer and sacrifice. But they also want to serve the church in the cities and the towns and the countryside, especially preaching, teaching, taking care of the poor and the sick and so forth. Whereas the monks lived in the, I'll give you an example, the Carmelite sisters here.
Right.
Right. They're monastic.
Right.
All right. They don't leave the walls of their monastery, and for a good reason, because they're praying for us.
Right.
They're very well aware of all of our problems, and many people go there and share their problems with them, and they bear our burdens through a life of prayer. We try to help people with their burdens with a life of prayer, but also preaching, teaching, counseling, and what have you. So we're an active order. We're not cloistered. We go out. But since the local bishop of any diocese is the chief shepherd, all religious orders try to work in conjunction with him.
Ah,
You see?
I see.
But within the walls of our own friary, past the gates of the friary, we are an independent community. Inside the,
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I understand it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I think that, like I said, there are a lot of people who don't. They think all priests that walk in robes on Guam
No.
are all of the same. There are marked differences, and we're going to take a quick break, and
Sure.
when we come back, I do have to ask you some magic questions about what's happening in our community now. There are people who feel that they are persecuted now with what's happening in the church. But most importantly, we also have a fundraiser, like you said, coming up during the weekend, and we want to find out how people can help and people can celebrate the fact that we have an incredible friary on Guam that has been serving our community. We'll come right back with Father Eric Forbes. Fruit?
especially the grapes.
I know. Open. I hope you are having a good evening. Thank you for joining us on Something to Talk About. We are in the lovely King's Restaurant in this corner booth, which we have dubbed our new set for Something to Talk About. My guest tonight, Father Eric Forbes. Do you prefer Polly or Father, or how does that? Does it matter to you?
Call me anything you want, but call me soon.
Don't call me Shirley. Let me just wrap up this conversation about the state of our Catholic Church. There are a lot of lost souls, and it's like new lost souls. It's really weird because it's all over Facebook and it's all on our radio station. It's all in the media. This rift that's taking place with the neo-catechumenal way and the clergy, the non-neo-catechumenal way clergy. How do you sum that up, or what can you say to the faithful, particularly those who will use this and say, I don't want to be a Catholic anymore. I'm going to go to one of the, Church X, Church Y, because I don't have the same struggle.
Sounds to me like a temptation to jump out of the boat. And that reminds me of the story of the boat on the Sea of Galilee in the storm. And the apostles were frantic and panicking, and there was Jesus sleeping comfortably on a pillow. And Lord, don't you care that we're about to drown? And he gets up and he says, keep quiet. And the storm immediately ceases. And then he scolds, perhaps gently, the apostles and says, "O ye of little faith, why did you fear?" So no, the answer is not to jump the boat and to go into the choppy waters.
So is this a test of our faith? Do you think that this is?
It's not the first and it's not the last.
Okay.
It's 2,000 years of history.
But there's politics that feels that enters into it. It's different.
Yeah. Well, that's been around too for 2,000 years as well. and we'll see more of it. Right? But I think that's the whole point of the story of the boat with the apostles and Jesus on those stormy waters. He knew this was going to happen. Even Peter said, "Let me go out on the stormy waters," and he let the elements, frighten him, and down he went. But Jesus still grabbed his hand and saved him. Christ will never abandon his wife, the church.
People take this so personally. They cry. I mean, they may not abandon the church, but they are emotionally down to.
Which is why we have to really pray hard, and not only pray, but make sacrifices.
How do we make sacrifices?
Fasting is one of the best ways.
God hears us if we don't eat.
We eat too much as it is.
Okay, so translate that for me, please. If I fast and I sacrifice that, God hears me how?
God always uses two things, because he's the creator of both. God always uses the supernatural, but he also uses the natural. He's the creator of both. You've got problems. Some people say the answer to your problems is pray. Other people say, I need to go see a psychologist. God uses both, the supernatural and the natural, together. And with this situation that we have going on, this is going to be solved by both of those ways, the natural and the supernatural.
Okay.
And the supernatural includes a lot of prayer and a lot of sacrifice.
And sometimes, isn't it hard for you when people come to you? It's hard to say, pray about it, or is it hard for them to receive, pray about it, pray about it, pray about it?
It depends. People are different, right? So some people, as a matter of fact, 10 minutes before we started, a lady came up to me and she said, "Oh, are you being interviewed about the situation?" And I said, "I don't think so. I think we're going to talk about my project." But the subject may come up, and she said, "Hi, Polly, I don't know. I just pray." That's coming from a layperson. And I said, "You know what, sweetheart? You're right on." Because it's the Holy Spirit that touches hearts.
Right. Okay.
And,
all right.
And we've got to pray for that Holy Spirit.
So I got to ask you this burning question. So you're half Chamorro, you're half Caucasian, and you have perfect Chamorro and everything. No, okay, to me it's perfect. I have low standards, but but Chamorro runs through your veins. We interviewed you. You were our go-to guy for Pope John Paul II beatification. You have a great, wealth of knowledge about our past and Catholicism on Guam, and you also speak the language. And you're doing this I Am Chamorro project, which is I think that's a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal. And you know what's even more astounding is that we're this close to meeting the budget.
Oh, how close are you?
I think we
Can
stand
you get my
at...
purse, Michelle? Get my wallet out of my bag, sorry.
Are you going to write a check?
No, I'm not. I'm going to give you checks.
Oh.
Okay, so anyway, what happened? Dude.
We need 150.
Yeah.
And I think we stand now, if not at 120, or very close to 120 grand.
Wow.
Yes.
So
and that's the generosity of people.
But that's not only, you know what the weird thing is? That's not people. I'm going to get Michelle to draw. No, go ahead. Come
and
on
organizations, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
organizations
not just
are made
people in
out of
Guam. That was people.
No.
These are people from the mainland.
Saipan, CNMI.
What is the attraction to
mainland.
the project? I got to ask you, what is the attraction? Here's 3 checks for you. And there's more coming. You want to look at those? There's there's a lot of money in that one.
Are they dated right? Okay.
No. Okay.
2014.
You need to cash those quick now because I don't know.
So, what is it? They believe in the project.
Okay.
And thank you, Lord. They believe in the guy behind the project.
Well, that's you.
And and that's just the public face they see. But really, behind me is an army of volunteers that are making it happen.
What is it? What is I Am Chamorro? What is the project?
It's a documentary on DVD, the history of the Chamorro people. Not the history of Guam, not the history of the Marianas, the history of the Chamorro people.
Wow.
So wherever Chamorros are to be found, it's part of the story.
Wow. So do you think that the interest that's coming from off-island Chamorros is part of this? I always say this.
Right.
This part of Renaissance that's happening.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
With our culture.
Great word. It's a fantastic time to be alive, to see this revival of interest. I mean, I know you grew up off island for a bit of
A
your
bit,
life,
yeah.
right? Well, I've always, lived here except for my education abroad post high school. But when I was growing up here on Guam, we said Guamanian, right?
Yeah.
And the Saipanese are different, and this is what I grew up with, and you don't hear that anymore. I mean, yeah, there are differences among the islands, and the Chamorros who live in the States, they also get influenced by their environment. There's differences. There's difference between Jigo and Maleso.
Right.
You
That's
know?
so true.
So, yeah, and these differences are great, and I love the fact that we have differences. Otherwise, we'd be extremely boring, right? But there are greater things that unite us. Greater things. Our language, our mindset, our values.
So in the end, no matter where you came from, if you came from Guam or if you came from Saipan or you came from this region, you're intersecting
But,
at
yes.
the fact that you're Chamorro.
But it's weakening, right? It's weakening.
Yes,
all those things, the language, the mindset, the
Right,
values, they're
right.
weakening. People have actually, they think they've lost it. I don't think they've lost it completely. I mean, even the guys born in the States, never even set foot on Guam, don't know a word of Chamorro.
Right.
Somehow they just know they're Chamorro, and there's just something in them
No,
that,
honestly,
that beckons.
That's exactly it.
You know?
Really, we are in a Renaissance period, and even Chamorros who live in Guam are trying to, reestablish something about our mores or about our value system that has been lost. Even something as simple as that. Not the language so much, not the culture, not those things, but our customs, our traditions, and our social and our
But
values.
I would say language is so darn important, man.
Well,
I
you
wouldn't
speak
give
fluent
that
Chamorro. Who
up.
taught you how to speak Chamorro?
Oh, about 500 people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was that by mistake, or was
No,
that
by design.
So? You mean so you were speaking Chamorro, and then you would mess up, and then they would tell you, and you were
Constantly
fine.
mess up.
See, that's the part
Constantly
of it that.
mess up. But how did you learn English? Ba,
Well,
ba, boo, boo,
Yeah, well, here's how I learned Chamorro, by my mother telling me, shut up, sit down, do your homework, come in or come out, and make rice.
no.
You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
mean, I understood Chamorro based on the.
But that's
based on
not how she
conversation.
taught you English.
No, that's not how she taught me English. She
Right.
spoke, and my parents
So
actually never spoke
when
Chamorro.
you said poon, she said no, spoon.
Right,
Right?
okay.
So that's
Well,
what we
it's
got to do.
different when you're a little, but when you're an adult and you feel like there's a lot of ego there, right?
Unless
Or-
ye become like little children, saith the Lord.
Okay. Listen, there is a huge fundraiser coming up next on September 20. I mean, I'm sorry, August 28th.
That's the friary.
That's the Friary. That's the one I'm talking about.
Oh,
that's
you wanna
coming
talk
up.
about that one?
That just real quickly because we only have a couple of minutes left. But that.
Okay, dear
that's
people of Guam,
Look into that.
Manyaluhuds and Manyaynahu. There are two fundraisers going on, one in August, one in September, and because Polly Eric is involved in both of them, people are getting all confused. Okay. The one in August 28th, Thursday, 6 p.m. St. Francis, $100 ticket, excellent food, excellent entertainment. That money that is raised will go help the Capuchin Franciscans pay the Bank of Guam for allowing us to build and live in that friary and serve the people from that friary.
Okay.
And then this thing on September 25th at Triple J Auto in Upper Tumon, 6:30 to 9:30, again $100. Fantastic food, and you want to know the entertainment? How's Johnny Sablon for you?
Oh my gosh.
How's Candy Taman? Gotta get Saipan, and he's a good friend of mine. All of these are my good friends. Flora Bazaquan and Patrick Palomo, Mr. Magic Fingers on the keyboard,
Wow, that's cool.
on the ivory. Both events, they'll be sold out. So try and-
Easily sold out.
Sold out. The one next week is almost sold out.
Okay.
So you want to get your tickets. And this one is to support the DVD project, Manhita Chamorro, the I Am Chamorro DVD documentary.
Okay. You know, we always end the show with some kind of entertainment. So I'm thinking that I'm going to enlist you to maybe drop a few notes and sing for us. Can you do that? You can sing, right?
After the break?
Yeah, can you do
Okay,
that?
yeah.
Oh, see, he's so good at this. After the break, we're coming right back. Father Eric Fords, Polly Eric Fords.
Polly, yeah.
I think he's going to sing for us. Say, can you do like, play that funky music, white boy?
Let's do a duet.
Oh, we want to keep our listeners. I really want to thank you for joining us tonight on Something to Talk About. And I want to thank King's Restaurant for this lovely fruit. They've got many more items on the menu. In fact, that's our backdrop today. If you'd like to come down and join us next week, if you'd like to as well. The entire restaurant is open for you to be part of our audience. But I especially want to thank Father Eric Forbes. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us. A special treat is Polly Eric Forbes is going to sing for us, and I believe he's going to be in the native language.
Of course. It's a chamorita, and it's for you, Patty. It's for you. Ready?
Ready?
This is for you.
Oh, yay.
Nana launa got buneni, igumuhugi bentana, zabunetsu za ugadbu, sainadora asnananya. That's for you and your son, Sean.
Oh.
I wanted you to cry.
Yeah, you're not gonna make me do it. No, what is it? What does it
It
translate
means,
to?
my, what a beautiful child who is looking out the window. And it's good that the child be so beautiful because he's adored or she's adored by the mama.
There are 3 other mothers that are going through this whole. You've been there. Your mother was there before. What was that like for her, though, when you first entered?
My mom was more stoic.
Ah.
And
Did she know that it was going to happen?
Yeah.
Oh.
And she accepted it.
Like, what do you mean accepted it? Like, my son's not going to be a politician?
Okay, see you in 9 months. No.
But she held out. She knew that from the beginning. Was
Oh,
there?
yeah. I was playing Mass when I was 5 years old.
See, that's it. When you're playing Mass, that's a good sign, isn't it? When you're playing Mass.
Kinda.
Yeah. Well, let's hope and pray that these boys who have been playing Mass all their life will finally one day stand at the altar and do that.
That's right.
Polly, I thank you so much
very
for
welcome.
coming. I appreciate it. Polly Eric Forbes, everyone. Man to love. I am Chamorro. Make sure you donate. All right, he almost got me.
I wanted you to cry.
I almost got me.
It's a lot of F's.
I almost said another one. So glad I edited.